What if your deepest self, your truest path, is constantly trying to send you messages?
Messages.
Messages often hidden in those fleeting images of your dreams, maybe, or in the profound shifts you feel as you navigate life's ever-changing seasons.
It's a universal quest, isn't it? Really trying to understand the mystery of our own minds and find some meaning in the transitions that shape us.
Absolutely. So today we're taking a deep dive into the extraordinary work of Carl Jung, specifically his really seminal book, Modern Man in Search of a Soul.
Hmm.
And this isn't just a book. It's a profound exploration of a human psyche. It offers some revolutionary insights into how we truly understand ourselves,
Yeah.
how we confront life's challenges, and ultimately how we discover deep personal meaning.
Yeah, and our mission here in this deep dive is really to pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge from Jung's writing. We want to explore his groundbreaking ideas on dreams, the unconscious, the stages of psychological development,
Mm-hmm.
and also how his perspectives often diverge, sometimes quite compellingly, from other great thinkers of his time.
Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to being truly well-informed about the complexities of the self and, well, the modern human condition. All our insights are drawn directly from key excerpts of this incredibly influential book.
Okay.
So let's start maybe by unpacking Jung's truly radical idea about dreams. We often just dismiss them, right? Fleeting, nonsensical, maybe just our brain cleaning house overnight.
Yeah.
But Jung saw something far, far more profound.
Yeah, what's truly insightful here, I think, is Jung's redefinition of dreams. He treats them not as mere fantasies or, wish fulfillment,
Right.
but as physiological facts. That's his term. They are, in his view, your inner self's direct, unfiltered report card. They offer a true picture of your subjective state
Wow.
and often reveal truths your conscious mind might deny or maybe only grudgingly acknowledge. It's like a direct line to your unvarnished reality.
That's a really powerful idea. It suggests dreams aren't just random noise, but a critical diagnostic tool, almost like a compass for our inner landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us an example of how a dream can be so direct in its message?
Certainly. Consider the patient Jung mentions who dreamed, "I am once more in the small village where I was born."
Right.
And then I hear one of them, who is pointing at me, say, "He doesn't often come back to our village."
Okay.
No complex interpretation needed there. The dream just clearly states, "You forget how far down you began." It's a stark reminder of humble origins, maybe a truth the conscious mind is kind of glossing over.
You're just keeping things pleasant.
Exactly. Or another patient, one struggling for advancement, who dreamed of desperately trying to catch a departing train, an S-curve train, only for the rear coaches to derail catastrophically.
Oh.
Yeah. The dream vividly presented his, quote, inability to climb any further, a fact his conscious ego was actively resisting. Very direct.
Okay, this next distinction Jung makes is particularly insightful, I think. The what for versus the why in the dream analysis. What's the core difference there? And why is that distinction so crucial for understanding our inner world?
Well, if we connect this to the broader field,
Mhm.
the why approach, often associated with Freud, it tends to look backward.
Right, to the past.
To a cause, an origin, maybe a childhood trauma, a repressed desire, that kind of thing. Jung argues this is too narrow. It can sometimes trap patients in their past. His what for approach asks about the dream's purpose, its prognosis, maybe, or what it suggests for future growth for the treatment itself.
So forward-looking.
Yes, exactly. Take that father-son dream Jung wrote about. The son dreamed his admirable father was a drunken, clumsy driver.
Okay.
Now, a why approach might delve into hidden resentments, maybe some Oedipal stuff, but Jung's what-for perspective suggested something different. The dream was a compensation because the father was too much of a guarantor for the son.
Too perfect.
In a way, yeah. The son was living what Jung called a provisional life. The dream wasn't just about uncovering buried negative feelings. It was pushing the son to differentiate, to become aware of himself, separate from his father. It was a forward-looking message, urging development.
So if dreams initially offer these clear, almost diagnostic snapshots, do they always stay that transparent as therapy progresses? Or does it get murkier?
Not at all. They often get less clear. Initial dreams can be Yeah, amazingly transparent. But as the analysis progresses, dreams often become more blurred, less distinct.
Hmm.
Now, this isn't because the dreams themselves are confused, Jung says. It's often because the doctor's understanding is being challenged.
Ah.
And it's crucial, he felt, for the analyst to admit their lack of understanding because, as he famously put it, nothing is more unbearable for the patient than to be always understood.
That's interesting. So being perfectly understood is bad.
It can feel like a box, maybe. It also highlights the immense value Jung placed on analyzing a series of dreams. Later dreams frequently correct or enrich the interpretations of earlier ones. It keeps both patient and therapist in a state of, let's say, humble inquiry.
Right. Okay, so if our dreams offer these raw, unfiltered messages from the unconscious, what do you do with that insight? Jung wasn't just about interpretation. He laid out this whole framework for psychological development, a path of healing. He talked about 4 distinct stages: confession, explanation, education, and transformation. Let's start with the first one, confession.
Right, that's a critical starting point. The first stage, confession, is really about bringing personal secrets and withheld emotions out into the open.
Stuff you keep hidden.
Exactly. Jung observed that unexpressed emotions or secrets, even seemingly small ones, can isolate us. They can lead to neurosis. He called them psychic misdemeanors that nature kind of punishes with sickness if kept private. But, and this is crucial, this process is most beneficial when it's done in communion with others, not just as a private struggle in your diary. It's the shared experience that allows for that real catharsis.
Okay, so sharing it is key.
Yeah.
And once we've confessed, brought things out, what comes next on this journey? Explanation.
Precisely. Because confession isn't always a complete solution on its own. Some patients are too anchored in their conscious mind for catharsis alone to do the trick. Others might develop fixations even on the confession itself. And this leads us right into the concept of transference. That's where patients unconsciously project figures from their past, like parents, usually onto the therapist.
Ah, the classic therapy dynamic.
Yes, and Freud brilliantly identified this. He often traced it to repressed desires, even what he termed incestuous fantasies. Jung acknowledges this was a huge advance. It allowed us to understand the shadow side of human nature.
The darker stuff.
Right, that even our purest beliefs can have these crude primal origins. However, and this is a key difference, he critiques Freud's reductive method, the one that always leads backward and downward.
Back to the why again.
Exactly. Jung felt that if you used that approach in an exaggerated, one-sided way, it could actually be destructive. He argues that while confronting the filth, as he sometimes bluntly put it, is important,
Sure.
you shouldn't then conclude that what is radiant no longer exists. The shadow belongs to the light, Both are part of the whole person.
That makes sense. So once these underlying dynamics are explained, understood, hopefully in a balanced way, we move into the third stage, education. What does that entail?
Yes, education. This stage aims for social adaptation, normalization, getting along in the world.
Getting in.
Essentially, yes. Adler's School of Psychology, for example, really prioritized this. They saw it as an indispensable goal, helping the individual become a functioning, contributing member of society.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
It does, but Jung points out a critical limitation here. He says that what's considered normal or adapted can become a kind of bed of Procrustes.
The mythical torture bed.
Exactly. Where victims were stretched or had limbs cut off to fit this single violent standard. For Jung, this means that an imposed normality can lead to unbearable boredom, sterility, especially for people with above-average abilities or, unique inner lives. For some people, neurosis arises precisely because they are only normal. Doing what's considered right becomes a terrible bore, especially for those who, as he puts it, always know how.
That really raises an important question then. If simply being normal isn't always the answer, especially for those seeking deeper fulfillment, what is the ultimate aim of this psychological work, according to Jung?
Well, this brings us to the fourth and arguably the deepest stage, transformation.
Okay.
This stage acknowledges that for many people, especially those who have achieved social adaptation, they're useful members of society. The deepest need isn't more normality, it's actually to lead an abnormal life.
Abnormal. How so?
Meaning, finding meaning and purpose beyond just societal usefulness. It's about the conscious assimilation of those unconscious contents we talked about, becoming the whole human being, or what Jung famously called individuation.
Right, individuation.
And crucially, this isn't just about the patient's transformation, it's also about the doctor's. Jung stressed that the relationship is a mutual transformation.
So the therapist changes too.
Absolutely. The physician must also undertake self-examination. pass through these same stages in a way. Otherwise, they risk reacting unfavorably on the patient. You can't really guide others effectively, Jung believed, while still being completely in the dark about yourself.
That makes perfect sense. These stages describe the journey of healing at a personal level. But Jung also understood that our inner world isn't static, right? It evolves with us through life. He then applied these deep psychological insights to the grand sweep of human existence, using that beautiful analogy of the sun's journey.
Indeed, it's a powerful image. He describes life as a sun's course. The morning youth, up until maybe 35 or 40, is about rising, expanding, establishing yourself in the outer world. Its goal is, as he put it, the widest possible dissemination of its blessings, like the sun reaching its zenith.
Spreading out, achieving things.
Exactly. But then, at noon, the descent begins. And this means a reversal of values and ideals, often a profound shift in priorities.
A reversal of ideals. That sounds challenging, maybe a bit unsettling for many people. What does that reversal actually look like in real life?
Well, it's a profound reorientation. For example, what was once a virtue in youth, like that continuous expansion, always striving for external achievement, that can become a neurotic hindrance in the second half of life.
A hindrance.
Yeah. Jung even observes physical shifts sometimes. Older women developing more traditionally masculine traits, men perhaps more feminine ones in terms of interests or expression. Many individuals, he felt, embark on the second half of life wholly unprepared. They cling to old truths, old ways of being that no longer serve them.
And that causes problems.
It can lead to considerable suffering, yes. Even nervous breakdowns, as their old strategies just stop working in the new landscape of their life.
So for those of us maybe in the afternoon of life, as he calls it, what's the new purpose then? What does Jung suggest we focus on?
The second half of life, for Jung, demands a profound shift in focus, away from primarily external achievement towards an internal journey. A duty, he says, to give serious attention to himself.
Turn inward.
Just like the sun seems to illuminate itself as it descends. He points out that primitive cultures often understood this better, with elders frequently being the guardians of wisdom and inner knowledge.
Right.
Jung suggests the true meaning and purpose of the second half lies in culture, not just in the continuous pursuit of what he calls nature's aims like money-making or procreation, the stuff of the first half.
Culture. What does he mean by that exactly?
Things like developing the mind, the spirit, understanding the self, contributing wisdom. It requires finding a new goal towards which one can strive. Even, he controversially suggests, striving towards death itself, viewing it not just as an end, but as a transition, a meaningful part of life's arc. That's essential, he thought, for psychic hygiene in later life.
And as we navigate this whole journey through life, Jung also gave us tools, right? He delves into psychological types. How do concepts like introversion and extroversion and his 4 functions help us understand ourselves and others through these evolving stages?
Yes, this raises that crucial question of individual differences. How do we account for why people react so differently? Jung observed that people tend to have a habitual way of reacting to the world.
A default mode.
Sort of. He formulated the concepts of introversion and extroversion, basically describing a negative or positive relation to the object, the outer world. Essentially, whether your psychic energy tends to flow inward towards your thoughts and feelings, or outward towards people and things. And then he added his 4 functions. Sensation, which tells you that something is perception through the senses. Thinking, which tells you what it is, its meaning or classification. Feeling, which tells you its value, whether you like it or not. And intuition, which tells you its possibilities, where it came from and where it might go. Perception via the unconscious.
Sensation, thinking, feeling, intuition.
Right. He saw them like 4 points of the compass for orienting ourselves in the world. But, and this is key, he stressed that developing one function really strongly often means the others remain somewhat primitive and infantile.
Less developed.
Exactly. Constituting a specific inferiority. For example, a very strong thinking type might have a relatively underdeveloped, maybe less rational, feeling function. This creates an imbalance in the personality until, ideally, all functions can be integrated more consciously.
Okay, that framework is helpful. Now, Jung clearly saw a unique kind of spiritual problem facing modern man, as he put it. What, in his view, sets us apart from our ancestors in this regard? Why is our search for soul different?
Well, modern man lives in a profoundly different psychic world than, say, primitive man. Primitive societies, as Jung understood them, didn't really see events as random. They saw them as caused by invisible, arbitrary powers. There was always an intention, not just chance.
So everything meant something.
Exactly. Their world was completely imbued with meaning. The psychic and the objective, the inner and outer, they sort of coalesced. If a crocodile attacked a woman, it wasn't just a random unfortunate event.
Right.
It was perceived as an intention, driven by spirits, maybe a sorcerer's curse, something like that. The outer world was constantly reflecting inner states or spiritual forces.
But for us, I mean, that sounds like pure superstition, doesn't it? Something we've logically evolved beyond.
Exactly. Our rational consciousness, which Jung calls a Promethean conquest, like Prometheus stealing fire, it was a heroic but maybe hubristic grab for reason. It meticulously seeks natural, perceptible causes. We resent arbitrary forces. We resent pure chance.
We want explanations.
We do. However, Jung argues that this very rationalistic bias makes us overlook, quote, the other half of happenings in general. Things like strange coincidences, duplications of cases, or that common feeling that misfortunes never come singly.
Synchronicity.
That's related, yes. He argues the psyche of primitive man, with its readiness to see meaning in strange coincidences and portents, it's not entirely dead in us. Even if we suppress it consciously, it just operates in the shadows, maybe influences us unconsciously.
So what does this relentless rationalism, this modern consciousness, what does it mean for our collective state of mind? What's the impact?
Well, Jung states quite dramatically that modern man has suffered an almost fatal shock, psychologically speaking, especially after massive events like the World War he lived through. The old metaphysical certainties, the religious frameworks that held things together, they were largely gone for many. And even our newer ideals, material security, human welfare, they also seemed profoundly shaken, unreliable.
A loss of faith in everything.
A deep uncertainty, yes. And this forces us inward. But instead of finding solace, we confront a chaos and darkness in our own minds. That old refuge is gone too. And this, he says, led to a rapid and worldwide growth of a psychological interest. A profound turning away from purely material things towards subjective processes, almost a convulsion of spiritual life, searching for answers within.
It's really remarkable how Jung's observations from, nearly a century ago, about the decline of traditional faith, the search for subjective experience, how much that still resonates with the spiritual hunger many feel today in our hyper-rationalized world.
It really does.
And it's fascinating that Jung observes traditional religions no longer come from within for many modern people. And that leads them to turn to things like spiritualism, astrology, theosophy instead.
Yeah, and this raises an important question. Why those particular movements? Jung sees these movements, which often contain what he calls Gnostic elements, a focus on direct knowledge or gnosis, as an expression of modern man's deep yearning for actual experiences in psychic life.
Not just belief, but experience.
Exactly. He wants to know, to experience truth for himself rather than just accept dogmatic postulates on faith. And this is where he critiques Freudian and Adlerian psychology, too. He saw them as being one-sided.
How so?
Too concerned with drives, pathologies, social adaptation. He felt they failed to satisfy these deeper spiritual needs or to give meaning enough to life. Jung asserts very strongly that it is only the meaningful that sets us free. These newer spiritual interests, even if sometimes misdirected in his view, weren't just idle curiosity. They were a crucial attempt to reconnect with that lost psychic reality.
And in this profound quest for meaning, Jung sees art, particularly what he calls visionary art, as a vital, almost indispensable expression.
Yes, he makes a really interesting distinction between two modes of artistic creation. There's the psychological mode, which deals with conscious human experience, lessons of life, emotional shocks, things we can mostly understand rationally. It's an interpretation of familiar contents. But then there's the visionary mode. This draws from the hinterland of man's mind, from primordial, timeless, often disturbing experiences that require mythological imagery to even be expressed.
Wow.
Jung argues that great art, particularly this visionary kind, is fundamentally objective and impersonal. It draws from the collective unconscious, that shared reservoir of human experience, to speak to humanity as a whole. It's not just about the artist's personal neuroses or problems.
So it's bigger than the artist.
Much bigger.
Yeah.
He famously says it is not Goethe who creates Faust, but Faust which creates Goethe. The artist becomes almost an instrument for the art's purpose, often sacrificing personal happiness for this greater task.
And what makes it so effective? Why does that kind of art move us so deeply?
The secret of its effectiveness, Jung argues, lies in a kind of return to the state of participation mystique.
Participation mystique.
It's a term borrowed from anthropology. It refers to a primal, non-rational connection, a sort of blurring between the individual and the collective, the subject and the object. Visionary art allows our individual feelings to merge with a universal, collective human experience. And that's why it can profoundly move us all, tapping into something ancient within us.
Jung's Modern Man in Search of a Soul really does throw open the doors, doesn't it,
Yeah.
to understanding the profound depths of the human psyche, from the wisdom hidden in our dreams to the shifting challenges of life's seasons and that unique spiritual quest of our modern age. It's a reminder that our inner world is just as vast and complex as any external landscape we might explore.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that knowledge of the self isn't a destination, it's a continuous journey, often involving that mutual transformation between those who seek help and those who offer it. Our path through life requires constant reevaluation and really a deep respect for the subtle, often unseen forces within us.
Yeah.
This holistic view really challenges us to embrace all parts of ourselves, doesn't it? Not just the easily acceptable conscious ones.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now taking this in? Jung really urges us to look inwards. Not to be swayed only by external truths or societal expectations, but to truly connect with the reality of our own psychic life.
Hmm.
It's about recognizing that what might appear to be chaotic or random on the surface can, when understood through this deeper lens Jung offers, reveal profound patterns and purpose, guiding you toward becoming your most integrated self.
So maybe consider this. In what ways might your own conscious outlook right now be denying a physiological fact, as Jung put it, from your unconscious? And maybe what unlived life might be waiting for your attention as you navigate the different seasons of your own existence.